Shanti, how are you all? So, recently, America has been reacting very intensely. The residents of America, they were staging huge protest on the wake of George Floyd's death, the murder of George Floyd by police. So, people are very angry about that racial behavior. So, actually, incidents may differ, but the same kind of mood prevails across the globe. Yes, go to any corner of the world, to any country, you will find people angry over certain things, certain people. You will always get a reason to be angry till your death. So, is that why we are living for? We have to live in peace. People call this protest as a peace protest. How can protest be called peaceful? How is that possible? Just because they are not violent, that doesn't mean it is peaceful. When you are raising your voice against something, you are losing peace and you are also making others lose peace. There is a famous saying in Srimad Bhagavad Gita that says, whatever happened was good. Whatever happens is good. Whatever is to happen, that's going to be good as well. So stay peaceful. I know it's very hard to understand this, but this is true. Everything is happening for a reason, because even in that video where a police officer was kneeling over George Floyd's neck, we didn't have the full picture of what actually happened. So in the beginning, a police officer was inquiring with George Floyd in the car. Then during several minutes, both were missing from the camera. So we do not know exactly what happened. So, and finally we see the police officer kneeling on George Floyd. So that really look very sad. It's very natural for anyone on seeing that video to get provoked. But that doesn't mean we should get angry, because eventually it is the law of karma that plays its role. Nobody can escape from the law of karma. Nobody knows what kind of karma, that is the action one has performed throughout his several births. Just because Christians and Muslims are not aware of previous births, they don't believe in it, it doesn't mean they didn't happen. It did happen. It is because of our bad karmas in the past that we suffer. We all suffer. So we collectively suffer at this time of the world because we have sinned so much without even knowing that we are sinning. For example, so every people in every single country would acknowledge that not only committing crime is a sin, but also who instigate that crime is also a sinner, right? If you take that instance, so George Floyd was killed brutally, so nobody is denying that. But does it mean that somebody else also has to give up his life? Because there's been shooting all across, and also they've been putting tear gas to calm people down. So people are facing a lot of trouble, and there has been looting. They keep fire to the public transport, to the police vehicle. So why should everybody suffer just because a person was brutally killed? I accept that it is a murder, so that is something we have to sympathize. but that is not something that we have to take it as a reason to show our wild side and cause harm to our fellow citizens. In Bible, they have warned that towards the end of the world, brothers will turn against their brothers. That is exactly what's happening around the world. So it's very essential to follow the Jesus Christ teaching very strictly now. That is, he asked us to show the other cheek to the one who slapped you on one cheek. Yes, that's the way we express our feeling. But by falling prey to this kind of protest and joining in that protest will only give the impression that black will behave violently. So that is how racism begins. Racism doesn't happen by the white man killing black men, but when black people fight like this, causing looting and all sorts of social disturbances, that's going to instill these kind of negative thoughts about black people among white people. All across the globe for many years we have been brainwashed by our education system, by the movies we see, by the medias, that we have to retaliate. Only then we can find justice. But the truth is exactly the opposite. We should not retaliate, for we do not know what happened. So initially they said about the things, how someone charged against George Floyd, they raised complaint and they called up for police, then he came. Now they are saying he just stopped a random black guy and they killed, so this is racist. But it didn't happen like that. So these media people, they want to take advantage of the feelings of the mass people. So they just go by what the majority of people believe, and they want to play their part accordingly to gain mileage, business mileage. So people fall for that, and you know what will happen eventually? You think that you can bring justice to that. Whatever happened has happened. No matter what you do, it's not going to bring back George Floyd alive or any of those who did in the past alive. But what it can do is it can cause more damage to those who are living, and also to the property of those who are living. The truth is, nobody is bad, but everybody becomes bad by joining these protests or by raising voice against these incidents. But it's a poison, it's a slow poison. It spoils your whole life. You just are not aware of it. What happens is, it doesn't matter what you raise your voice for, whether it's for good or bad, but what happens is you raised voice. You raise against some belief, some incident, some person. So that's the kind of attitude that you develop. So it doesn't go away just like that. Even after you get any kind of justice you desire, in this case, what you expected might have happened externally, but it has already caused a huge damage internally in your mind. Yes, you have become a rebel. So you will start rebelling against anything that goes against your belief system. So as I said earlier, nobody is bad, but in your mind you will develop a belief system that makes certain people bad. So you will start opposing them while at school, while at college, while at workplace, while within family. So because the behavior that you develop will be rebelling against all sort of normal events that happen around you. So that's going to make the life around you hell, and also it makes your life like hell. It's really bad that no Christian pastor in any media raise voice against this protest, because it is their duty to keep the world peaceful. So they shout about peace when there is peace, but when there is peacelessness, they keep their mouth shut. What does it mean? So do they gain anything like politicians? Because it is now all religious leaders should raise their voice to calm the people, to turn them towards God, because whatever happens is the will of God. We do not know the big picture, we just know a micro picture. So even in that Floyd incident, as I mentioned earlier, we do not know what happened from the beginning to the end. So how can we know about what anybody did in their past life or in their past birth? Everything happens for a reason. For example, if there is a rich guy who rapes many girls using his influence and money, he will obviously escape the punishment of the government, but he couldn't escape the punishment of God. Yes, he will eventually take birth. In the next birth, he will be a small girl, while in his very young age, he might have got raped or even killed by a gang. It looks awkward for us, but he is being punished for what he did in his previous birth. That is what the law of karma is all about. Hinduism preaches law of karma directly, and all other religions preaches law of karma indirectly. See, in Bible, King David desires another man's wife, and he enjoyed her, and God punished him by making the girls of his family being raped in public. So that's the God's law. That's actually the law of karma. It will eventually happen. So nobody can escape from the law of karma. Just because we are not aware of it, even if you know that, you don't apply that during these circumstances, because of which you make your life and the life of others hell. So what happened in that 8-minute video of killing George Floyd is, so police said that he was not cooperating the arrest. That's why they had to force him to get arrested. And though it seems he is trying to kill him, I believe that his intention was not to kill him, because if he wanted to kill him, he would have easily used his gun for that, right? So we don't know what made him to do that. Even if he did something like that, that's some psychological problem with that police officer. So we can't mark it as an attack of racism. I don't think it's racism, because they came there to arrest him based on a complaint. I believe he would have done that even if it happened to be a white guy. So that is why it is very dangerous to label ourselves as white or black or rich or poor or belonging to a certain nationality or certain religion, because during these circumstances we will identify ourselves with that label through which we get provoked, though we are not personally affected by that particular incident. Somebody else is affected, but I and him belong to the same label. That is why I get provoked. So the problem is not that incident, it is your belief system that you belong to that label, that group that provokes you. So stop giving yourselves that label. Everybody is a God's children. That is the only label you should remember, and that is the only label that's going to keep you peaceful throughout your life. So everybody is a son and daughter of God, and everything that happens in the world is according to the rule of God. So nobody can escape that, and God will never be unjust to anybody in this world. So we are just not aware of what happened, what sin somebody else have committed in their past births. Not only that, even before 2000 years, we know the world was becoming very cruel day by day. But even before 2000 years, Jesus Christ said that we were all born sinners. What does it mean? It means you have sinned in your past birth, or else how can you be sinful at birth? So you can't be sinful just because your parents involved you in sex to give birth to you. So that is their sin. You are a sinner because you have sinned in your past life. Everybody is a sinner. You want to know how sinful we are? On hearing these provocative incidents, if you get provoked, it obviously means you are a sinner, because this is the characteristics of any sort of sin. It makes you sin further, makes you sin more. That's the characteristic of any sin. So if you indulge in lust or sex, so it will make you to indulge in sex more and more. If you get angry, then it will induce you to get more and more angry based on any provocative situation. So that's why God says lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. These 5 vices, so they are called sinful acts. So if any of your act is induced by any of these 5 vices, then it is undoubtedly a sin. So what happens in America regarding this George Floyd's case is the attachment to that group. So that's what made people to protest against the government, and many whites are supporting those protests. And what group they belong to? The same belief system, that is, we should fight for the right. No, you will never get justification by fighting. It happens automatically. Some may ask, if we just keep it like this, if we just leave it like this, then these things tend to happen more and more. That's why we are raising protest. No, not really. Though it's hard for our mind to perceive the reality is protest will do no good for anybody. So no matter what kind of protest happen in any corner of the world, people will always go to Mahatma Gandhi of India. You know what? He is called the father of India, but still people think he is a great man. Of course he is a great man, but what he did by staging this kind of peaceful protests is he made India filled with people of no tolerance. Yes, he didn't tolerate the rule of British over India in the past. So everybody joined Mahatma Gandhi. Actually, Mahatma Gandhi convinced many to believe that we are being ruled by British, we are being harassed by British, because people were not aware of that. People were very peaceful, no matter who rules India. So they were peaceful, but he convinced them or brainwashed them. It was very hard for him in the beginning. Then people started following him, and there were many people killed in the process, and finally they got independence. And from that day on, there has been huge protest for every single teeny tiny reason. For political reasons, they use protest, and whenever they were questioned by the government, they always quote Mahatma Gandhi. So if a way is causing harm either to your peace or to the peace of the society, it is wrong. You have to understand that it is wrong. So what happens is, people of India were very innocent before Gandhi. So these fights will happen only between kings, not with the subjects. They were very peaceful. They didn't bother who really ruled us. They were living a peaceful life. They were very pious, very God-fearing. So they didn't bother about that. That's why they led a peaceful life. So after that, he made all kings to resign from their position, and he brings this democratic rule where people select their leaders. That's when the actual problem starts, because people are not satisfied with any political leaders, and also they have this right to change the leader. That is why they start watching the leader very closely. But that's not our job, right? Let them do their job, but we are not ready to leave that. That's what democracy does. And after the arrival of the internet, people, even youngsters, they are very keenly watching what's going on in politics, especially when it comes to negative propaganda. They're very much interested in that. That is why there is huge chaos throughout the world. So now people are brainwashed that if you don't join a group, you are not safe. But the reality is, you are in trouble only when you join the group. Just see who got hit in the protest. Only who joined the protest, not the ones who are in home. So only companion for you, true companion that's going to protect you, is God. Be with Him. Don't be surrounded by any groupism. Don't add any label to yourself. You are your soul. That is a child of the Supreme Soul, God. He is called God Shiva. He is called the Supreme Father. He is called Allah. God is one, and He resides right here in the soul world. It is an orange colored light world. That's where God resides as a point of light, and also we reside as a point of light. We souls reside there without a body, and from there we come here to earth and start taking birth. So it was heaven in the beginning for the first 2500 years, and in the next 2500 years it has become hell. We made the earth, which was once heaven, into hell. You know why? Because we fall addicted to those 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. While we were in heaven, we were free from these 5 vices, mainly because we didn't consider ourselves to be this perishable body. Instead, we considered ourselves to be this imperishable soul that shines like a tiny star in between the eyebrows, which is why Hindus till date have this habit of wearing a red dot over here. That's where we actually reside. We are not this body. It is the soul that sees through the eyes, that speaks through the mouth. It orders every single organ of our body to work the way it wants. So He is the master. It is just a vehicle for the soul to carry out its action. So those who were in heaven were completely aware of that naturally. So they considered themselves to be the souls, and also they consider the fellow members to be the soul. What happened as a result is, they didn't fall for lust, no matter how beautiful they are. Actually, they would look very beautiful and gorgeous, and they were very wealthy. They were ever healthy, and also they were filled with very good characteristics like love, peace, and bliss. And it didn't come from the outside. Yes, it actually came from outside as well, but they didn't depend on the external source for peace and bliss. Instead, they were so focused on the fact that they are souls. So that is more than enough to experience peace and bliss, because soul itself is an embodiment of peace and bliss. Just because we get attracted to the external world, we forget the fact that we are souls when we reach hell. That is why it has become hell. So we want to get that peace and blissfulness, happiness from the surrounding, which is when we get addicted to those 5 vices: greed, attachment, ego, anger, and lust. So that is when the trouble starts, because it always comes with a trouble. So that is when we started worshipping God. That's when religions came into being, but they all were started by humans. So human way is called the devilish way or satanic way. So the first 2500 years we were following the directions of God, but God didn't come there. But we were naturally on our own, we were expressing only the God's character, divine characters. That's why we were called divine beings or deities. So those are the ones who are worshipped by Hindus till date as deities. So we were originally that in the beginning. After taking several rebirths, we are now finally in the world filled with peacelessness, filled with sorrow. And the reason is we fall for these 5 vices. And the reason for us falling into those vices is because we forget the fact that we are imperishable souls. Instead, we consider ourselves wrongly to be this perishable body. So that is the reason for these things. And God reveals all this truth. In the end, He came from His supreme abode. He is a point of light. This supreme world is called Parandam or Parlok. So that will be basically a orange red colored light world. From there, God Shiva enters an old man's body in the end, and he names him Brahma, and he gives this knowledge. And he says this is a 5,000 year time cycle called Kalpa, and the significance of this is whatever happens in one Kalpa, that keeps repeating Kalpa after Kalpa so accurately. It's so accurate that whatever you see, listen right now in this very second is the same thing that you listened 5,000 years back on the very same day. And this is the same thing that's going to happen on the very same day after 5,000 years. So you will be watching the same video after 5,000 years on this very same day. So it's how accurately this Kalpa repeats, Kalpa after Kalpa. Quran says God created us to test us. It's not so actually, because they are not aware of the rebirth. They said like that, God is not a psycho to test us for no reason. It is because we have sinned in our previous births while we were in hell, because while we were in heaven, we wouldn't commit any sin. Only while we were in hell, we would have committed many sins for which we are getting punishment in terms of murder, rape, diseases, climatic change, political conditions, and so on. And now God says it is because we become body conscious instead of soul conscious that we fall into these 5 vices that's causing us innumerous amount of trouble. So to get rid of that, all we need to do is to get rid of body consciousness and to regain soul consciousness. And then we have to remember our God Father Shiva, who shines like a tiny star in the golden red colored world. Before that, we have to consider ourselves to be the souls, and then we connect our mind to God. We have to keep on remembering Him. The more we remember Him, we will get a strange trembling sensation in between the eyebrows, which means we are receiving power from the Supreme Soul, God Shiva. So as you gain more and more power from God, we will slowly get rid of these 5 vices totally. So that's how we get washed off our sins. And this is the only way to get rid of sins, because this is the message given directly by God now, not some 2000 years or 750 years before. God Himself comes. He comes directly to give this one. You know why he is giving now? Because it's going to be heaven now. Because heaven after 2500 years becomes hell. Hell after 2500 years becomes heaven. So heaven is the new world created directly by God. And this world, when becomes old, becomes hell. So this doesn't need God's interruption. But to convert the hell back to heaven, God must come. That is why God is coming in the end, to give this knowledge. You know how heaven looks like? Everybody is so loving. Even the stones were made of gold. So they create golden palaces, but they wouldn't have any windows or doors because they were not afraid of theft, because nobody there is were aware of what theft is. They were so childish, so innocent. That is why Jesus says, if you want to come into heaven, you should be like that child. So what is the main difference between a child and an adult? Lust, right? Child is totally unaware of what lust is. An adult, they are so preoccupied with lustful thoughts. So we have to get rid of that. The only way to do that is to remember God. Just because nobody knows about this, even religious preachers of all religions fall for lust because they don't know how to come out of it. They do not have that power to come out of it, because only God has that power, but nobody knows how God looks like, because they all read from the scriptures written by humans whom did not have any encounter with God. Of course, God's knowledge is revealed there, but only 1% of it is God's knowledge. The rest 99% of it is Satan's knowledge, which is why people fight with their religions and they fight with each other. So God comes only once, towards the end, to create heaven. His knowledge is to create heaven, not to create a religion. So Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, they all belong to the category of religious preachers. They were not God. They came here and gave a certain knowledge sufficient enough to establish a religion, not to establish heaven. If they could establish heaven themselves, then God need not come in the end. It is God who comes in the end. That is what they think, the second arrival of Jesus Christ, the Kalki avatar of Lord Vishnu. But the reality is, Vishnu is the first king of heaven. So he doesn't come again in the entire cycle. Of course, his soul comes in various names and forms, but the Vishnu with the same name and form will appear only in the first birth. Likewise, Jesus Christ came 2000 years back here, towards the beginning of hell. So he will come with the same name and form only towards this point again. So that's going to take possibly 3000 years, right? So before that, Jesus won't come, but his soul, it's taking rebirth just like any other soul. He is here. He is totally unaware of the fact that he was once the Jesus. It could be you, it could be me. You could be Sri Krishna, I could be Sri Krishna. We are not aware of it. So all we need to do is to remember God as a point of light. And we also have to consider ourselves as a point of light, and consider every soul as a point of light instead of seeing them as black or white or something like that. Everybody is a point of light. They play their role according to their drama part, because it's more like a drama, 5,000-year-old drama or cinema. So it's predestined. Nobody can do anything about it. So why should we worry about anything that nobody can change? So everything is for good. Believe it, everything is for good. So you may think that if we leave these unjust things to happen, so it will increase more and more in the future. So yes, they protested a lot these years. So has it decreased? It's still increasing, right? So it will keep on increasing no matter what. It will keep on increasing. Not only that, even natural disasters, that will continue to increase. So there was huge fire last year, right? So throughout the world, there has been some kind of natural disaster every year, turning worse and worse year after year. You know why? Because of the sins that we accumulate year after year. So since our sins keep on increasing, the suffering that we get through natural disaster or through this racial killing or through this coronavirus thing, so they will tend to increase further and further. So the world is going to get worse, but there is a shield for you to protect, that is the remembrance of God. By remembering God and also to listen to God, so you can actually, God comes in the end to speak with his kids. So we are all sons and daughters of God Shiva. So he is speaking to us. This is the only chance for us to listen to God directly. It happens only once in 5,000 years. If you miss the chance now, you will eventually miss it forever, because whatever happens in one kalpa, that will keep on repeating kalpa after kalpa, which means if you turn a blind eye to God, you will have to turn blind eye to God every kalpa after kalpa. You know what? Real peace will never be established in this world, but it will be established in the new world. That's going to happen very soon, within the next 20 years. So God has come towards the end of the world in the last 100 years, before the destruction of this world, because this world has to get destroyed for it to be re-established into the new world, to the golden age. So that's the task of God, not of humans. So if you want to do anything, if you want to take the law into your hand, that's going to create more and more worse world. Mahatma Gandhi thought that he could make this world better, but see the result. The world has become more and more worse, mainly because of his way. So as I mentioned earlier, if you have imbibed this devilish character like rebelling, that's not going to go away from you just like that. That's going to stay with you forever, and it's going to cause trouble to you and your family members and everybody around you. So you may end up in a mental hospital eventually. Only if you maintain peacefulness throughout this situation, only then you can enter heaven. I understand nobody has that power. That is why we all react in a negative way. So we have to keep on remembering God, and also we have to listen to him. That is what called as Murli being taught in all Brahmakumari's Raja Yoga meditation centers. So his teaching is collectively called Murli. You can Google it as Murli in your language, English Murli or whatever language you belong to. So you Google it, you will find the site address, and you can listen to Murli, and you can also see the location of the Brahmakumari Center in your area, in your country. It is there across the world. You can go there, you can get the God's teaching totally free of cost, because it is after all run by God himself, our Father. We have the right to his teaching. We have the right to the heaven created by our Father. So we should all come there. But this Satan, he creates, he makes you imagine that there is something wrong in this world, and makes you react so that you lose the inheritance given by God, given by our Father. He wants to turn you away from God, which is why these things happen. Of course, they are very good, but they are the weapons of Satan. They themselves do not know fit. So nobody is happy here, whether it's a ruler or the subjects. Nobody is happy here. Whether it's rich or poor, nobody is happy here, because it is hell. It is for us to get punished for our past sins. How can you expect peace and blissfulness here? But in heaven, we will all be very beautiful, very wealthy, very peaceful. And not only us, even animals, they will be very loving to us. Even lion and sheep, they will drink water from the same pond at the same time, which means they don't eat on animals like we do in hell. So everybody eats flesh of animals, which means we are committing sins. We just do not know of it. People say it is mentioned in Bible that it's okay to feed on animals. Really, is that so? Because in Bible, in the Old Testament, in the very first chapter, Genesis, they say God makes plants the food for both animals and humans. So that is heaven. So only heaven abides by the rule of God. So after that, we start having our own dictates. So we start following human-made religions, which is nothing but this satanic law. So that is where we start committing little sins. All religions say adultery is wrong, but sex with your wife is okay. So how is that possible? Because sex is something that makes you addicted. When you get addicted, you want more and more, but you will definitely get bored eventually with your wife. Then you want that thrill, right? So you will eventually go for a prostitute or some kind of illicit relationship. As long as there is sex, there will definitely be prostitution. So only way to get rid of prostitution is to get rid of sex, but no religions ever teach that. But Jesus Christ says it is a prostitution to even lustfully look at a girl. What he means is somebody looking at his wife lustfully, because back then that was the time when sex come into the world. So he obviously means the husbands looking lustfully on their wives. That's what he meant. But now we don't take that. We think it's outside marriage that he mentions. No, he is not mentioning that. Anyway, nobody has the power to conquer lust now. So only way to get that power is to connect ourselves with God. We have to keep on remembering God and keep on listening to his Murlis. So when you keep on remembering God, you will have that strength. Then on saying this, you can easily differentiate between right and wrong. You can never differentiate between right and wrong unless you get to listen to Murli and start having yoga continuously, because only then your mind will have enough strength to think correctly. As of now, nobody thinks correct. That is why so much chaos is happening throughout the world. So more and more civil killings and more unjust things are going to happen. But though it looks unjust for us, it is just based on karma. So whatever happens is good. Just leave it that way. Connect your mind to God and ask your loved ones to connect their minds with God. That's the only way that you can provide protection for them. You can't provide protection by staging protest. You are just putting their life at risk by doing that. So nobody can think correctly now, because even now, even when there is no protest, people don't think correctly. At this time of chaos, there is absolutely no chance for the mind to think correctly. So just like black, so there are many divisions in all countries. Here in India, it is caste system. Not only that, there is also people who are born without legs or hands. They are handicapped, they are blind, they are crippled with some diseases. So we can't protest for that, can we? Can you protest that God, you are unjust for us? No, he knows what we did in our past to suffer this. Even we know deep in our heart that we did something in the past to deserve this, right? If a snake bites a black man, would you stage protest for that against snakes or against God? It is similarly like that. Snake is just an instrument of God to punish somebody for their past mistakes. Even police or whoever, they are just instruments of God. Of course, what they did is wrong and they will be punished eventually. But now, what happened through them is also justifiable. Only God knows So believe in it strongly and stay peaceful and spread this message of love, because this is the reality. This is the God's message. This is to check how peaceful you can be. If you are very peaceful, no matter what happens to your friends, neighbors, or even to you, that decides whether or not you are going to enter heaven in the latter part, in the middle part, or in the beginning. So if you have more power, you can come in the beginning. If you have less power, you will have to wait in the soul world till the world becomes a little bit world. Only then you can enter. Because what happens during the world destruction, during the destruction of the world, every soul has to leave its body and has to go back to the soul world. From there, based on the power you have accumulated in your previous birth by remembering God, you will be coming. In the beginning, if you have accumulated more power, you will come in the end if you have accumulated very less power. So if we suffer a lot, it means we have sinned a lot. You have to understand that. If a George Floyd was in trouble, it means that there's going to be bigger trouble for us. It's just an indication how much sin we have as humans. So what we need to do right now is not protesting, but we have to hold on to God very tightly. We should not let any negative emotions reveal from us. We should reveal only the divine characters like love. So if you really love black, give this message, share this video with them, with everybody, because nobody is aware of this knowledge. Only God has it, and only God comes and gives this. So give this knowledge to everybody by sharing this video. If you like this video, hit the like button and leave your valuable comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe immediately and hit on the bell button, followed by hitting the all options, so that you will be notified of all our future videos. Thanks for watching this video for this long. And I am BK Saravana Kumar, son and student of God, the only God of all religions. And I will see you soon with a very interesting and very important video very soon. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.